Good morning and happy Tuesday. You are tuned in to the Human Performance Project. I am your host, Adam Coleman. So that makes you along for the ride with ABC here at the HPP. I am cooking meal number 2, which is like a second breakfast, I guess, for myself. Typically I'm up at 5, and my first breakfast is a simpler one in terms of time to actually cook it, and then in terms of the types of foods that I include usually. So the first nourishment of the day that I give myself is usually a whey protein and a cereal of some sort, because both of those are very quickly digested. Cereal has been a big help for me in getting carbohydrate numbers up, total numbers up, because eating 400 plus grams of carbohydrates sometimes is difficult, at least for me. So right now, like, my macros are around 4,000 calories a day, just over 4,000, but it's 400 grams of carbs, 100 grams of fat, and 200 grams of protein are what I'm at currently. And so over the course of 5 meals and a shake is what that is broken down over. So this morning, to be more specific, since I went grocery shopping yesterday, luckily, I had a really good first breakfast this morning, which consisted of an Alvarado Street Bakery sprouted cinnamon raisin bagel. Also was some whey protein, as I said. And then what else did I have this morning? I had some cereal as well, some basically organic, gluten-free, like Honey Bunches of Oats. And then I had some aminos in between now, or then and now. And what I'm cooking now is a second breakfast of 10 egg whites, scrambled, 1 whole grapefruit, and 4 pieces of Alvarado Street Bakery toast. Pretty simple. I just use a butter substitute on the toast. I'm not using a jam or anything. Not because I'm worried about sugar at this point, just because I don't have any. So I need to find a good quality jelly that's not high fructose corn syrup. I ran out of honey, so the Smart Balance and peanut butter are my only choices. Being that this is going to most likely be a pre-training meal, I'm not going to put a huge amount of fat in it. I want it to digest rather quickly so that I don't have a lot of food in my GI tract when I'm trying to work out, basically. I have made quite a few changes with the workouts too, which we'll get to in just a moment. But right now, again, if you haven't watched any of the other videos, this is in preparation for some physique / bodybuilding shows this fall, November, December. Definitely December, November, if I'm ready for it. I will do too. So that's the plan. I'm about 18 and some change weeks away, and I feel pretty good about the way things are going at this point. Body weight is up to, by the end of the day, into the low 180s now. And I started this in May, I guess just after my birthday is when I really decided that I was going to do it. And at that point, I was barely 160 pounds, and my body fat was about 14%. So now, like I said, I'm in the high 70s, low 80s, depending on what time of day you catch me, and my body fat has gone down to sub 10%. So that's definitely good. I am just amazed constantly at my metabolic abilities. I underfed myself for years, not knowing that I was, and went low carb for years because it was, what I was supposed to do, quote unquote, to not put on excess body fat. But, that's just not true for everyone. Not everyone can eat 400 plus grams of carbs a day. I realize this. However, I can, luckily, and I don't think you really know how much you can eat until you really try and focus on a specific macronutrient. And carbs are unique in the sense that they gets stored in our muscle tissue and several other places, our liver, as glycogen if they're not used as our first energy source, which is what our body prefers, carbohydrates. So I think that as you work out and train more, your ability to store glycogen improves. I think those glycogen cells expand, because the amount of carbohydrates that I'm able to eat and really just feel tight and lean and not, heavy and bloated, is just much more than I ever thought possible. So when people were telling me they're eating 400, 500, 600 grams of carbs, I'm like, yeah, okay, you're either a freak of nature or you're lying. But I realize now that as a 37-year-old male that's not, I don't have any great genetic abilities, and I'm not taking any like secret wonder drugs that allow me to eat this stuff. It's really just consistency. And as you guys know, that's a huge part of the success or lack thereof that anyone will have with bodybuilding, regardless. Just being able to be consistent, do the same types of things, day in and day out, whether you want to or not. It's gonna be the deal breaker. So, with all that food, I do definitely try to make the most out of it, give myself the best opportunity to make the most out of it. What I mean by that is I use a digestive enzyme. Well, actually right now it's just a probiotic, but I do take a really strong probiotic that it's not fancy by any means. It's just an extra strength, 10 million strain conglomerate of different lactobacillus strains, and bifidobacteria strains also thrown in there. But that, some milk thistle, fish oil, a multivitamin, and then an adaptogen combo of like theanine, ashwagandha, and more of a calming effect that has chamomile in it and things like that for later in the day when I'm kind of winding down. Not using a lot of caffeine except for my pre-trainer. I actually stopped drinking my morning coffee, which I really enjoy, but I'm trying to, again, being that I'm still a good ways away from these shows, what I'm trying to not do is burn my body out. So I don't want to have my adrenal glands totally exhausted, just taking a bunch of stimulants. I don't want to be depleted, trying to diet down and not eat enough food. Because what will happen, you'll essentially hit a sticking point where your metabolism will slow down pretty dramatically sometimes in response to just exhaustion. You reach your limit. So I'm trying to baby my body while I push it to the fullest extent possible, because at my size, obviously I'm not a big man, so I'm trying to grow and put on every ounce of muscle that I possibly can between now and those shows, which is going to be possible for me to do. It's nice to be in the position where I don't have to play catch up for anything. I don't have to, sorry, I'm getting my toast out here and trying not to burn myself. I don't have to try to do, 3 hours of cardio a day, just to get to an adequate body fat percentage. In fact, I've actually scaled back some of the cardio. I was doing about a 45-minute walk with my new dog in the morning, fasted, and then doing some 10 to 15 minutes right after the weight training session as well, and then another dog walk later in the evening. So I've stopped with the fasted morning cardio. I still walk my dog because she needs it, obviously, but she's a puppy, so she's learning. I don't worry about the pace of the walks. They're really just more for enjoyment than they are for cardio. And the only structured cardio that I'm doing at this point is right after my weight training sessions. That I do in high intensity interval form. And the apparatus I choose, or the machine that I choose, is based on what muscle group I've done and how my legs feel. If my legs don't feel totally beaten to shit and I still have some energy left, I go for the stair stepper, because I think it's gonna help. Well, I know it's gonna help with glute development and leg development, which is an area that I want to shine. stationary bicycle and treadmill and elliptical are all options too. So if I'm, too sore or my knees are hurting or whatever, because I have had a couple knee surgeries on my left knee, then I'll do one of those other three that I mentioned. The elliptical is probably the lowest impact, or the least amount of stress put on my legs, period. Even though you're supporting your body weight, it's not a real arduous cardio form. Even walking is harder than the elliptical is. So that's kind of my saving grace. But really I focus just more on the heart rate than I do on what I'm using, regardless of what I'm using. At this point, I'm only doing 15 minutes max of the cardio after a workout. And workouts are 2 to 3 days on, then a day off, 2 to 3 days on, day off, just based on how I'm feeling physically. Today, for example, I feel like dog shit. Yesterday was my day back from a rest day, and I felt good, but it was a back day, and I felt so good that I just, I don't know. Well, I do know. I'm being much more specific and different in my rep tempo, and it made a tremendous difference. It's like right in the middle, my shoulder blades, my rhomboids, my spinal erectors, everywhere I want it to be sore, it is sore. Like, sore is not even a word that covers it all. So I'm gonna eat this second meal, let it sit, go for a little walk with Pepper, and then see how I feel about training legs today. It may end up being another rest day because I just did chest. My elbows are a little sore from overuse, being the heavy pulling and pushing movements, and I throw in either a bicep or tricep on push or pull day. So I'm not gonna do arms. And so basically, if I don't do legs, it'll at the very least be a what I call a GCC day, general core conditioning. I'll do things like kettlebell swings, box jumps, and other plyometrics, coordination and agility drills in a circuit fashion. So I'm basically keeping my heart rate up and getting some cardio benefit from it, in addition to the foot speed, coordination, mental training, because that's important too. So there's always a way to improve something, even if I can't do exactly what I want to do. In the past, I would have been pissed off that I'm not able to train, and I need to take more or something, and I'm not doing something, and it's just not that way now, man. It is what it is, and live to fight another day. You can only do so much. Not every day is going to feel amazing, and it is still a day that I was blessed enough to wake up and stand up and take nourishment. So I'm already better off than a lot of people today. So don't forget that for yourself either. If you're listening to this and watching this, just say thank you, because it could have gone a different way. But I'm lucky. I don't have everything that I think I want, but I have more than what I need, and I get to do my favorite thing in the world, which is bodybuilding, 24 hours a day, and help other people follow their pursuits too. So it doesn't get too much better than that. I'm excited to compete again. I'm excited to be training for something again. I really did not know how important purpose or having goals was for me until up here just recently. But I'm glad to be training for these shows, and thank you for everyone that has supported me along the way and continues to. This go around in the workouts, I've changed my rep range. It just changed. I was training in a 10 to 15 rep range, and I've dropped it now to a lower 5 to 10 rep range, and the tempo of the reps is a 2-second eccentric or descent, and then a much more explosive ballistic concentric contraction. So what that does, I know that muscle fibers either they turn on or they don't, right? It's an all or nothing law. But the number of motor units recruited to turn on, that is variable, right? So if you're just curling a barbell and just going through the motion, you're not using as many motor muscle units as you would if you were going nice and slow, picking your point and exploding back up. Nice and slow, explode. Nice and slow, explode. Keep the weight under tension on the muscle in question and make those contractions explosive. You recruit more muscle fibers, you'll do a greater amount of damage to the muscle fibers involved, and then it's just up to you to feed yourself properly to grow them back. But it's really, I can feel a difference in just the way that the muscle feels a day or two after the session. If I do my end and nourish myself, the hypertrophy from it is noticeably different than just lifting weights and going through the motions. So I try to keep, hey, stop. So I try to keep that as a thought in my mind, whatever lift it is I'm doing. Sometimes it's very difficult to make yourself go slow and control that weight and just keep the tension on the muscle the whole time. I mean, we try to find these little resting points, a pause at the top, a pause at the bottom, whatever. But really just punishing the muscle as much as you can on every set, and being very purposeful with every rep, you know, thinking about nothing else other than that set and that rep and that exercise at hand, you know, not what you're gonna eat afterwards or what so-and-so said, you know, yesterday. And just be there with that training at that moment, and you know, be very purposeful in what you're doing, and the results that you'll get will be reward enough, I think. So yeah, I've slowed down the rep range, I've lowered the reps, I've lowered the volume of the workouts, and a lot of people would think, well, why the hell would you do that before a bodybuilding show? Again, you know, if I'm doing 10 sets of 10 at absolute failure and everything every day, like there's not really much room to expand beyond that. Your body's gonna be taxed quick, and you're probably gonna hurt yourself and burn out. So, you know, I feel like by dropping to a place where I'm doing, you know, 3 sets, 4 with a warm up, more explosively and intensely, at a heavier weight, you know, that leaves me some room to manipulate things and turn the screws different ways if this way isn't making a difference. But the difference that it's made already in just the week that I've been doing it is enough to make me want to stick with it for sure. So, you know, I've lowered the volume of the cardio, I've lowered the volume of weightlifting, but the strength and weight has increased, continues to increase. Get yourself all tied up here. There. Sorry, she's a special puppy. So yeah, it's sometimes less is more, and you have to listen to your body, because it's not ever gonna lie to you. And I continue to get taught and retaught that on a daily basis. So, yeah, I'm just trying to keep everything in perspective and not do too much or get too caught up in what everyone else might be doing and not doing, and just to trust the process. It's always interesting to see how the body responds and how it changes, and some of my friends that are watching me through this that have never been with me through a prep before, like they're dumbfounded at like my weight fluctuation. You know, like woke up one morning, it was like 173.8. By the end of the day, it was like 183.7. And they were like, what the fuck? And I was like, yeah, and watch, tomorrow morning I'll wake up with probably like 172, 174, somewhere in there. And I woke up and I was 173 and a half. You know, and they were just like, man, like you fluctuate that much every day? I was like, pretty much, you know, because it's 2 grams of water to 1 gram of carbohydrate to make muscle glycogen. You store that in your muscles, your brain, your liver, you know. So there's a lot of variance that can happen if you know where it's coming from, you know, and realize that it's not, obviously it's unfortunately not all muscle mass, but it's not all body fat either. People sometimes I think freak out and they'll not eat, you know, which is the last thing you want to do if they see the scale make that kind of a change. But really it's just, you know, trusting that what goes up must come down. If you gained that much throughout the course of the day, it might be sodium, it might be a high carb day, it might be that you were really depleted and needed it. It could be a little bit of all those things, but that weight eventually, if you stay consistent and trust that process, the weight eventually will stick and it'll eventually become muscle. And then you go from waking up at 170 to waking up at 174 and being there comfortably. and going to sleep a little bit heavier each day, and then eventually you're waking up at 180, and then you're doing the same thing in the low 80s and bouncing up to 90 eventually, and then you're waking up at 190 a couple weeks later, and so on and so forth. You know, it's just kind of a 2-step forward, 1 step back, but as long as you're ultimately getting a net gain and going forward, it's what you got to keep reminding yourself of. So it's been a good learning experience so far, and there's still a long way to go. Supplement wise, right now I got in touch with a company that I haven't used in a long time, and I don't know why I stopped, because they make great stuff, but Gaspari Nutrition, tried and true. They sent me a bunch of samples. I'm excited to get some different things. I got some ideas that I knew about but I just wasn't utilizing, like a mass gainer to help me get the carbs up for post-workout, like an intra-workout carbohydrate drink. Just simple things that I really should be utilizing at this point, but for whatever reason I haven't been. But I'm definitely gonna add in a creatine in an intra-workout drink, carbohydrate drink. I've already added in the mass gainer, and I don't use the whole serving, like, so I think it's 4 scoops is 1,210 calories and 55 grams of protein, 228 grams of carbs, only 8 grams of fat, so that's great. 13 grams of sugar, also great. So what I do is I take 2 scoops of that, right? So I get half of all of that, which, you know, 27.5 grams of protein is not enough. So I add whey isolate on top of that, okay? So I throw in a couple scoops of that, get myself boosted back up to about 50 grams of protein. But now we've cut down from 228 to 164. Yeah, something like that. So, and only 4 grams of fat. So, you know, we'll call it 150 grams of carbs. That's appropriate for post-workout. That's okay. You know, I wouldn't drink it before bed, but, well, maybe I would if I was really depleted, but that's a different story. But most people, you know, that's like a daily total, 125 grams of carbs. So, you know, that's a single meal for me. You know, I would encourage you to look at your diet. If you haven't logged food before, that's where you need to start. It doesn't have to be fancy, just write down what and what time you're eating if you don't want to actually log it and do the math. But there are apps that you can get for free. Not MyFitnessPal, because they'll say it's free and then charge you $80, which I don't know why an app would ever be worth $80, but anyway, they do the math for you, is the point with the macros. So you can scan the meal or the barcode on the food item, and it will add it for you to get you where you need to be. So, you know, there's a lot of tricks out there that you can utilize, and at the end of the day, I would encourage you to utilize as many of them as you can, because it's hard to do on your own. There's a lot of variables, and it's always a learning process. Something's always changing. But if you have any questions for me, I would encourage you to ask them in the comments below. Like and subscribe to the channel. I will be back probably later today with some update pictures. But thank you guys for sticking with me, and I appreciate you very much. Stay swell, stay swole, do something to better somebody's day today. Be the best human you can. Thanks very much.